Happy Sabbath. Hope you're doing well. Yesterday was super hot and hopefully today will be a little bit cooler. But look, what's in my hair? They're flowers. That's right. What color is this? Is this the white one? What about this one? This is the pink one, right? All right. Well, this is our last lesson for our Bloom series, and that's why I have flowers in my hair. Right now we are going to start with our song. I'll see you in a little bit.
God loves us, and He gave His only Son. He is awesome, Jesus. Nothing can stop Him, He's too strong. Yeah, we're singing, Jesus is alive, He's alive, oh yeah. Everybody celebrate. Jesus is alive, He's alive, oh yeah. He can do anything, because He's bigger, because He's stronger, because He's greater than anything ever, because He's bigger, because He's stronger, because He's greater than anything ever. God loves us, so He gave His only Son. He is awesome, Jesus. Nothing can stop Him, He's too strong. Now we're singing, Jesus is alive, He's alive, oh yeah. Everybody celebrate. Jesus is alive, He's alive, oh yeah. He can do anything, because He's bigger, because He's stronger, because He's greater than anything ever, because He's bigger, because He's stronger, because He's greater than anything ever. So spin around and sing it, dance around and shout it. Jesus is alive, Jesus is alive. So spin around and sing it, dance around and shout it. Jesus is alive, Jesus is alive, Jesus is alive, He's alive, oh yeah. Everybody celebrate. Jesus is alive, He's alive, oh yeah. He can do anything, because He's bigger, because He's stronger, because He's greater than anything ever, because He's bigger, because He's stronger, because He's greater than anything ever.
Okay, you guys ready for our memory verse? I hope so. This is our last one. So I'm going to do some motions right now and see if you can fill in the words, okay? Let's see how you do with Carrie.
I am alive forever and ever. Revelation 1:18. I am alive forever and ever. Revelation 1:18.
Glad you're back. We're about to do our lesson with Louise, but before we do, I want you to get a few supplies. I emailed your mommies and daddies earlier in the week, and hopefully you have these ready. The first printout is a picture of different places. You'll see a playground, you'll see a grocery store. Another printout is a circle that has the words Jesus is alive in the middle. And the last printout has a bunch of different ovals, just lots and lots of ovals on the paper. The next thing you'll need are some crayons or markers, a pair of scissors, and if you have colored paper, you can actually make those ovals much easier if you had colored paper too. So I'm going to do this, but you'll see why. Let's go with Luis now and do our lesson.
Who? know what time it is.
Time to hear a story full of wonder. There's so much fun we'll have learning together. So let's go down to the clubhouse with Ollie and his friends. Let's go down to the clubhouse where wonder never ends at the Wonder Clubhouse. At the Wonder Clubhouse. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a wonderful Oh, hey, I'm Lucy. And these flowers we planted are making me so happy. They light up the whole clubhouse. Where do you think would be the best place to put them? Oh, I know. I love these flowers. They make my fuzzy wuzzy heart so happy. Where do you think I should put Devin's flower pot? Aha! Ta-da! This is the perfect place for a chocolate chip cookie flower pot. Poppy's flower pot is so super colorful and fun. Maybe I should leave it right here, in the middle of the clubhouse. How's that? Wait a minute, there's only 3. Where's Kai's flower pot? Oh, I remember. Kai gave his flower pot to his grandma.
Hoo, hoo.
Hey, it's Ollie.
Hello, Lucy. Ho, ho. You've made quite the flower garden. It's true.
Hi, Ollie. They're so beautiful. It makes my heart happy to look at them.
It's good to find something we love. Ho, ho. And even better to share it with others, too. So let's hear this story. Just follow me through. Ho, ho.
Follow me through. Follow me through. Ollie's got a Bible story for me and you.
Oh, hey friends! All month long, we've been celebrating Easter and how Jesus is alive. That reminds me of a story. Do you want to help me build it? Haha, great! Let's put it on the story fence. Hammers up, little builders. Ready? 1, 2, 3, hammer! Great job, little helpers. You can put your hammers down. Now we just need our story tools. And done. Okay, now today's true story from the Bible happens on a mountain. Jesus told his friends, the disciples, to meet him on the mountain. Well, here are the disciples, but where is Jesus? Do you see him? When you see him, yell, Jesus! Is he over here? What about over there? Do you see him? Oh, there he is. Yay, Jesus. So, Jesus went to his friends, the disciples, and he told them he had an important job for them to do. It's an important job that he wants us to do too. Do you want to know what it is? Say, I want to know, I want to know. Ready? I want to know, I want to know. Good. Jesus said our important job is to tell everyone, everywhere, that Jesus is alive and we can follow him. Whoa! Do you think we can do it? Let's say that together. Jesus is alive and we can follow him. One more time. Jesus is alive and we can follow him. Let's practice. Oh, look, it's Grandpa. Let's tell him Jesus is alive and we can follow him. All together now. Ready? Jesus is alive and we can follow him. Great. It's our neighbor checking her mail. Let's tell her too. Ready? Jesus is alive and we can follow him. Let's do one more. Hey, look, it's our friends playing in the park. Let's tell them. Ready? Jesus is alive and we can follow him. We did it! Great job, everyone! That's what Jesus wants us to do, to tell everyone, everywhere, that he's alive and we can follow him. Hey there, Ollie. Tell me, who is alive?
Jesus is alive. Yes, it's true. Now let's hear it from you. Tell me, who is alive?
Jesus is alive. That's the truth, friends. You better believe it. Adios!
So there's your story, and it's all true. We can follow Jesus, and we can tell others too.
Thanks, Ollie.
Goodbye to you. Hoo, hoo.
Wow. Jesus told his friends to tell everyone, everywhere, that Jesus is alive and that we can follow him too. I think I got the story. Did you get it? If you did, say got it. Get it? Got it! Good! I think these flowers are so beautiful. I can't just keep them in the clubhouse. I want to share, like Kai. And when I give these flowers to my neighbors, I can tell them that Jesus is alive. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day.
Glad you're back. What did you think of Luis's story? Do you remember the message that we're supposed to try and share? About how Jesus is alive and we can follow him? Well, that is called the Great Commission. Can you say that? The Great Commission. Commission. Very good. So he wants us to share Jesus' message that he's alive. He came back from the dead because he loves us. And he wants to be our friend. And he wants to be our friend forever. Don't forget that. And we can follow him. But sometimes it's kind of hard right now because we really can't leave the house. See, like here's a playground. We can tell our friends at the playground that Jesus is alive. Here at the grocery store, we can tell the cashier that Jesus is alive. Here at the post office, when people are standing in line, we can tell them Jesus is alive there. And at the dentist office, while we're waiting for the dentist in the waiting room, we can tell maybe some other kids that Jesus is alive and we can follow him. But remember to always say those words, the Great Commission, only if your mommy and daddy are with you. Okay? Make sure an adult is with you when you talk to strangers. There's another way to talk to people and share this message. This is called a cell phone. And sometimes you can chat with somebody like this. And that's a great time to share with them that Jesus is alive and we can follow him. Well, for our activity, we're going to make a really special flower so that we can share it with somebody once we're all back together again. So if you can, find this picture with the circle. Jesus is alive. And I want you to color the inside. You can use orange or yellow. We can actually do both. So I'm going to color this yellow. And if you go out of the lines, that's okay. Because we are going to use those petals, those ovals, to cover up where we went out of the lines. So it's okay. Now, you guys know Teacher Rowena's favorite color. What is it? That's right, it's purple. So I have some ovals here that I will color purple because it's my favorite color. Here, it is again okay to go outside the lines because we will be cutting them. Okay, here's another set. This one has a little bit of red in this purple color. This is called magenta. All right, and for this last bit, I'll finish coloring myself and then I'll come back. I did want to show you a trick though. Right here, You can cut the ovals. Whoops, I dropped it. If you can still see the lines, you can actually fold them in half and then fold it again and cut your oval that way. Because now, with one cut, we'll make 4. All right, so I'll see you back in a little bit. Finish your coloring and finish your cutting, and we'll put it all together. Oh, and one last thing. Don't forget, you'll need some glue. So either a glue stick or white glue. See you back in a little bit. Okay, how did you do with your cutting and coloring? So these are the purple ones that I used with the color paper, and these are the ovals that I did with coloring. Okay, so they're all cut out, and I did 2 layers. These are the colored papers, but if you can see, I actually put it a little bit further away from the line. I gave it some space. So next, I'm going to put the glue. And this is again, what I did is I used 2 of the oval sheets. That way, there's a lot of petals. But you don't have to do that. You can just use the 1. And what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of putting my petals on. And at the end of the day, or after I'm done with this project, I will probably share it with my sister. I can't share it with my daughters because I only made 1. And I don't want them to fight. Well, you know what? They can share, right? Sharing is awesome. And that's what Luis wants us to do. Share the Great Commission that Jesus is alive and we can follow him. So, what do you think, kids? It's coming together, right? So this is my purple flower that I will share with my sister and maybe my girls. We'll see. And I hope that you don't forget this message, that Jesus loves you so much that he came back from the dead. He wants to be our friend, and he wants us to share that he is alive and we can follow him. Don't forget, you could tell everybody in all these places, on the phone, even on the computer, you can tell the Great Commission message to everyone. Take care. I'll see you next week.
Hi, good morning, elementary kids. How's everybody doing this morning? I don't know about you, but I woke up feeling so blessed this morning. The sun's out. I get to worship with you guys this morning. I miss you guys all so much, but it's wonderful that we could get on here and worship together. And during the week, we get to Zoom and see everybody's face, and we do so many fun activities that I just feel so blessed. And although we can't be together, we have all these different platforms that we can get on to connect. Now, let's get our singing voices ready, let's get our energy up, and let's worship the Lord together this morning.
Everywhere that I go, you're there with me. Even in the night when I cannot see, I know you're by my side and I will be just fine. Oh God, you're always good to me. I wanna say thank you, thank you. I will live my life to praise you, and lift you high. Every night and day I'll follow in your ways. I wanna say thank you, thank you. I wanna say thank you, God. Every breath that I take, you give to me. Every brand new day is a blessing. I know you're by my side and I will be just fine. Oh God, you're always good to me. I wanna say thank you, thank you. I will live my life to praise you, and lift you high. Every night and day I'll follow in your ways. I wanna say thank you, thank you. I wanna say thank you, God. I wanna say thank you for mercy and kindness, for grace that is endless, love and forgiveness. I wanna say thank you for mercy and kindness, for grace that is endless, love and forgiveness. I wanna say thank you, thank you. I will live my life to praise you, and lift you high. Every night and day I'll follow in your ways. I wanna say thank you, thank you. I wanna say thank you, God. I wanna say thank you, God. I wanna say thank you, God.
Even though we may be physically apart, I'm so glad that we get to worship God together. This week, we're going to wrap up our month and talking about humility. Let's take a look at these balloons right here. Do you suppose you might know what they have to do with our story today? Well, let's listen in to what Jacob has for us in this week's lesson.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Oh. Hello, everybody. My name's Jacob, but my friends call me Jake. I don't know how all these balloons got here. It must just be another hilarious April Fool's Month joke from my friends. And it's a good one, but I can't find anything. I mean, it took me forever just to find this camera. Hello? Camera? Where are you? I need to talk about humility. Camera? Camera? Hello? Where are you? I need to talk about humility. So, let's talk about humility. Humility is putting others first by giving up what you think you deserve. Now, what's a good way to describe humility? Okay, so let's say I was a world famous balloon maker. I could be all like, I make balloons better than anybody. I deserve the best seat in the house at the balloon convention. I deserve the best seat in the house at the balloon convention. Meh. What if I won a contest for best color box puzzle solving? I could be all like, I can cube solve faster than you. I'm smart and you're not. Or I could be like, hey, if you want to know more about cube solving, I can teach you because I'm smart and also nice. lamps or electricity. You know everything there is to know about electricity. You're like Alfred Einstein. This lamp works because of power going through the wire into the light bulb, and it makes it bright and stuff. And I can control it with a switchy poo. I know everything there is to know about electricity and light and things like that. Sorry about that. That was really weird. I don't really know anything about electricity. Anyway, today's story is about these people who thought they knew everything about what God was up to, but they really had a lot more to discover. I've got a lot more to discover too. Like, where's my bed? And my TV? And my floor?
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. And now for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Luke, chapter 24, verses 13 through 35.
The sun was still high in the skies. Cleopas and his friend, who we'll call Micah, started their journey to the town of Emmaus. The day was hot and their sandals kicked up dust off the hard-packed road. They were exhausted by the difficult events of the past few days.
7 miles. We'll make it by dinner time.
You believe it? All that stuff the women said when they came back from the garden.
I don't really feel like talking.
What if it's true?
Have you ever seen a dead man come back to life?
Lazarus?
You didn't see that. You heard about it.
Well, lots of people saw it.
Don't look, but fast walker behind us.
Just get over it. He'll pass.
He's slowing down.
You know him?
I'm not looking. That makes it weird.
Nope. Don't know him.
Great. Now he knows we're talking about him. Way to make it awkward.
Hi.
Hi.
The man had caught up and now matched his pace to theirs.
So, what are you talking about as you walk along?
Cleopas and Micah exchanged a surprised glance. Cleopas slowed to a stop.
Are you the only person visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know? Don't you know about the things that have happened there in the last few days?
What things?
The man began to walk again, as if he expected Cleopas and Micah to join him. What do we do?
Go with it. The things about Jesus of Nazareth. He was a prophet. He was powerful in what he said and did. But the chief priests and our rulers handed Jesus over to be sentenced to death. They nailed him to a cross.
Yeah. We'd hoped he was the one who was going to set Israel free.
This all happened 3 days ago.
But early this morning, something crazy happened. Some of the women who followed him went to the tomb, but they didn't find his body. They saw angels who said Jesus was alive.
And then some of our friends went to the tomb. They saw it empty, too.
Cleopas and Micah glanced over at the stranger to see how he would take the story.
How foolish you are.
Excuse me?
How long it takes you to believe all that the prophets said. Didn't the Messiah have to suffer these things and then receive his glory?
What? Cleopas and Micah were floored. The stranger had started out by asking them questions. Now it appeared he was schooling them.
The whole story is laid out already in Scripture, and everything written by Moses and the prophets.
The stranger reminded them of scriptures they had heard since they were children. Words written thousands of years before showed how Jesus will be born, how he would suffer, and how he would die.
So you see, things were supposed to happen this way.
This is incredible. You're saying that God has been planning this day for thousands of years?
Yeah, but if that's true, then you're saying Jesus is alive?
As the stranger smiled at them, Cleopas and Micah realized they had reached Emmaus.
Oh, this is us.
The stranger nodded and kept walking.
Wait, stay with us. It's nearly evening.
The stranger joined them at the place they were staying and sat down to dinner with them.
This looks like a really fresh loaf of rye.
You want to bless the food?
The man took the bread and looked up to heaven.
Thank you, Father.
Then he broke the bread, giving each of them a piece. It was then that God opened their eyes. Cleopas and Micah saw clearly who this man was.
Jesus?
It's you!
As soon as the men recognized him, Jesus disappeared from sight.
That was real, right?
Jesus broke this bread. He gave it to us.
I think deep down I knew it.
He explains to us what the scriptures meant. Weren't we excited as he talked with us on the road?
We have to tell everyone.
Right now.
The men were far too excited to wait until the morning. Now, even though it was dark now, they raced the entire way back to Jerusalem. When they reached the place where the disciples were staying, the men could barely contain themselves.
What's going on? Are you okay? We have seen Jesus.
He's alive.
Jesus' friends gathered around as Cleopas and Micah shared the whole story. They were amazed to discover how much bigger God's story was than they expected.
Okay, so it doesn't matter how important you are or how talented you are or how much you think you know things. Things will still happen to you that you don't see coming. Like, I didn't see a room full of balloons coming today. Being humble means admitting there are things you can't do and things you don't know. I am really good at that. That wasn't very humble. Those guys on the road with Jesus thought they knew everything God had planned. That's why when Jesus died, they were like, no way. But Jesus showed them God knew what he was doing all along. For like thousands of years, God left clues that he was sending someone to save the world. Someone from Abraham's family, a king, like King David, and he would come to earth as a baby, like that prophet guy Isaiah said. There were even clues that a savior would die and come back to life. All that came true with Jesus. So when you expect things to go a certain way, even if you like 100% know things are gonna go that way, they may not. And that's okay, because nobody knows the future, except for God. Hey, maybe we can look into the Bible for clues to what God's plan is for us. Let me see if I can find my Bible. Oh, no, that's not it. Okay, but there's one verse I remember. It's kind of a clue. This guy Paul wrote, "We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him." I think that means even things that seem bad will turn out good in the end. Pretty cool, huh? So I don't need to know everything that's gonna happen because God's in control. Here's one thing to remember today. There's always more to discover about God's plan. We're never gonna know everything. That's why we've gotta keep searching. I'm gonna look for my Bible one more time. I wanna see if there's any more clues. Not what I expected, but I think it'll do the job. You might want to close your ears for this, and your eyes, just to be safe. Don't worry, Floor! I'll find you! Whoa!
Good morning, everyone. I am here to check up on you and to see if you took me up on the challenge that I gave you last week about putting others first. And I'm happy to report that some of you did. And the reason I know that is because you sent in videos. So we're going to get to watch those videos. It might be you, it might be your friends, of how you took up a challenge of putting others first. Thank you for sending them in, and we'll see you guys next week.
I put others first when I played whatever my brother wanted this week. So we went on a scooter ride and with my sister, and she scraped her hand, and we went home and got her a Band-Aid, and I got her stuffed animal, and I shared her ice cream. I put Christian first by making his special request for dinner. My mom asked me to do the dishes, but I really wanted to get back on my iPad and watch YouTube. But I did the dishes and showed my mom that I put her first.
I put others first when I gave my mommy a massage.
I think the most challenging thing to do is to put my siblings first. I love both of my brothers, but they are annoying sometimes. However, very often I find myself sharing my favorite snacks with them, or letting them win board games, or putting my Barbie playhouse on pause, just because my brother wants me to play basketball with them outside.
This week, my mom told me to do a chore, and I was done before my brother. And then I came to him and said, "Do you need any help?" And he said yes. I put when I let Michael do ABC Mouse first. We were in the garage. Natalia came barefoot, and this little plastic, and it was really sharp, and she stepped on it. It was bleeding. I picked her up and carried her to the bathroom. Then I got Neosporin. I sprayed it on her cut. I put a Band-Aid and I gave her some socks. I put on her shoes, and that's how I put my sister first.
I put others first by making breakfast for my family. I made eggs, bacon, and waffles for my sister, my mom, and
you.
Me.
I put someone first because God wants me to make that choice. I also feel happy because I'm making the right choice. When I bake something like cookies, I give it to my family first so they can enjoy it first. Thank you. Have a nice Sabbath.
Wow, thanks for sharing your story. It warms my heart to hear how you guys are all living out what Jesus has asked of us. It's not easy putting others first, but you're all doing that. The world has come together to try to put those who are weak first. We're all staying home. We're adjusting to a new normal to try to stop the spread of COVID. It's not easy. We miss our friends, our teachers and coaches, but you're putting your
Hope you're having a good week. Happy Sabbath. It's good to be back together. Last week on Zoom was super fun. This week, yesterday, tons of fun. We have something even better planned for next Friday. So can't wait for that. We will let you know what that is about. All right, so we have a couple fun facts for you guys today. I'm not going to make you exercise.
Thank you.
All right, so here's fun fact number 1. I bet you guys had no idea about this. Billy goats, you all know what a billy goat is, right? They urinate on their own heads to smell more attractive to the females. Isn't that pretty gross?
Kind of like cologne, huh?
So like when we go to those petting farms, the zoos, you know, like, aren't there billy goats in there?
Oh boy, I'm not going into that.
I'm not going to be petting anybody anymore.
Especially on the head.
I know. Oh, goodness.
All right.
Your fun
My
fact.
fun fact is the world record for an egg dropped that's unprotected and doesn't break on impact is 700 feet. There was a guy that dropped an egg from a helicopter, dropped 700 feet, unprotected, and it landed without breaking. Imagine that.
That's crazy. There has to be a trick. He's not going to share it, is he?
He dropped more than one, I think.
Yeah. He probably went through some eggs, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, today we're starting a new series, guys. And the bottom line is that we're going to be talking about honor others and expect to be honored by others. So we're going to be discussing about honor, and it goes both ways.
Today, we're going to talk about honor and respect, both when it comes to ourselves and others. We're jumping into a series that we call Trending, where we talk about some topics that are trending in the world of middle schoolers. Now, sometimes those topics are funny, and other times the trending topics are really serious. And sometimes they're things that have the potential to impact our lives in big ways.
Yes. And let's be honest, talking about these topics can feel a little uncomfortable. But we want you to know that here in church, you can talk about anything. This is a safe place to ask questions and have conversations about like difficult or confusing things. And we really believe that you're mature enough to have these kinds of conversations with us. Because today we're gonna talk about something that's really important, and that's consent.
Yeah, maybe you've heard the word consent before, like when you have to get your parents to sign a consent form for you to go on a field trip, or to be able to participate in an activity, or to watch a certain movie at school. Or maybe you've heard it used in really serious ways, like in stories that you're reading online or hearing about in the news. Or maybe you've never heard this word before. It's not really one that comes up a lot in our conversations. So what exactly does consent mean? Well, consent simply means to give permission for something to happen, to agree to do something or allow something to take place.
Yeah, like when you let somebody play on your brand new gaming system, you're giving them your consent to use it.
Yep, or when you let your little sister borrow your sweater, you're giving your consent for her to wear it.
Right, or when somebody takes your picture and you agree, you're giving them consent to snap the photo. Now, typically, we don't use the word consent to talk about things like borrowing clothes or sharing your stuff or taking pictures. When the word consent is used in most conversations, it's usually about what someone does or doesn't want in regards to things like relationships or dating or physical touch. See, whether you realize it or not, consent is actually a really big deal. And that makes understanding why it matters so important. It has the potential to change both the way we treat others and the way we let others treat us.
So we're gonna pause right here and acknowledge what some of you might be thinking, that consent is all about permission. It's about having the right to say yes or no to someone else. It's about your ability to express what's okay with you and what isn't. But as middle schoolers, you might feel like this is something that just doesn't really apply to you yet. Why? Well, because the adults in your life have most of the control. Here's what I mean. Your parents control what you eat and what time you wake up and when you have to be home from your friend's house, if you can have that social media account or who you can invite to spend the night. Your teachers control where you sit in class and what homework you have to do and when you get to eat your lunch. Now your coach controls what spot you get on the team and when you get to play and how much you have to practice. I mean, even right now, we have control over how long you have to sit here and listen to us. When you look at it in these ways, it's easy to see why you might think that consent isn't something that applies to you right now. I mean, after all, the adults in your world have most of the control, and because of that, they're usually the ones giving consent.
And as a middle schooler, the adults in your life really do have a lot of say in terms of what you can say yes or no to. But believe me when I say that you, right here and right now as a middle schooler, have more options to give your consent than you may in fact realize. When it comes to saying yes or no to someone, you have more control than you think. You see, you're actually faced with opportunities to give your consent every single day, especially when it comes to some things like relationships, dating, and physical touch. Think about this. When someone wants to hold your hand, or give you a hug, or put their arm around you, you get to decide if you're gonna say yes or no. When someone asks for a picture of you, you get to decide if you're gonna send it. When someone wants to kiss you or dance with you, you get to give them permission, or not. When someone wants to go on a date with you, or sit with you on the bus, or maybe even be your boyfriend or girlfriend, you get to give them permission or consent. In a lot of ways, you as middle schoolers are exercising your consent every single day. And because of that, you have a responsibility to use it wisely. You have a responsibility to not only give consent to others, but also respect the consent others might be giving to you.
So you see, consent really is about the way that we treat each other. And sometimes this can be a tricky thing to navigate in our relationships. And maybe that's because when it comes to relationships, you're thinking more about what you want than what's best for the other person. I'm sure the other person doesn't seem comfortable with you asking for those pictures or sitting so close to them on the bus or asking them out repeatedly. But I mean, you want to. And besides, they didn't necessarily tell you not to. They might not be comfortable with it, but they didn't outright tell you to stop. Or maybe instead of thinking about what's right or best for the other person, you're just thinking about what you can get away with. Like a quick touch in the hallway, or a joke, or a risky comment in their DMs. Those things aren't really enough to get you in trouble or get you called out for the way you're treating the other person, are they? Or maybe that person even gave you their consent to hold their hand or to take that picture or go a little further into sexual activity with them. They said yes, and so you did, but then they changed their minds and told you no. And that's confusing because it's the complete opposite of what they told you that they were okay with in the past.
Now, maybe the whole consent thing is complicated for you because you've been on the other end of it. Maybe you've been asked to do things that you didn't feel comfortable doing. It could have been that somebody asked you to cheat on a test, or a friend convincing you to lie to a parent, or even moving faster in a relationship with your boyfriend or girlfriend than you wanted to at the time. You didn't want to do it, and you certainly weren't comfortable with it, but you felt pressured by the other person to give in and take the step. Maybe in those moments you didn't know what to do. You didn't know how to express how it made you feel, or that you didn't want to do it. Maybe you wanted to say no, but you didn't know how to say it. Maybe you even felt like you couldn't say it. What would the fallout be if you did? Would it hurt their feelings? Could you lose that relationship? Would they even understand? I mean, everyone else around you seemed to be doing that exact same thing, including the teenagers you see on TV. So maybe, even if you're uncomfortable with it, this is just what you're supposed to do?
And for some of you, this conversation is even hard to have. I mean, maybe you've spoken up and said what you did or didn't want, but the other person didn't listen. Maybe you didn't give your consent, your permission for them to talk to you or touch you or treat you in a certain way, but they did it anyway, and that is not okay. And you know just how terrible it feels to be treated this way because you've experienced it. No matter where you sit with all this, here's what we want you to know. We can all expect more than this from each other, and we can all extend more than this to others. We have control over our consent, and we also have a responsibility to respect others when they give or don't give consent to us. And I think giving consent and respecting others' consent starts with honor. Honor is just another way to say that we treat each other and ourselves with respect.
And honor plays a big part in understanding consent. You see, when we honor someone else, we listen to and respect their consent. And when we honor someone else, we change the game for not only how we treat them, but how we allow others to treat us. And what's cool is that even though this is a trending topic right now, it was also something that men and women wrestled with thousands of years ago. How do I know this? Because it's in the Bible. There's a letter in the New Testament, the second half of the Bible, written after Jesus lived on earth, called Romans. The letter was written by a guy named Paul. Now, Paul was a leader in the early Christian church, and because of that, he had a ton of influence in the lives of people who believed in Jesus back then. And because Paul spent a lot of time traveling to share and spread the message of Jesus, he would write letters to other believers in cities and churches. Why? Because he wanted to use his influence to encourage them, support them, and share wisdom on how they could live their best possible lives, lives that honored God. And today, we're going to look at one of those things Paul said in his letter to the church in Rome. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves.
So Paul said that one way we can show others that we love them, that we care about them, is by honoring them. So what does that actually look like? Well, remember that honor is another way to say respect. So when we honor someone else, it just means that we treat them with respect. We show them respect with our words and our actions and our thoughts and behaviors. You can honor your teacher by not talking while she talks in class. You can honor that new kid in school by deciding not to tease them in the lunchroom with everyone else. You can honor your parents by not yelling at them. And when it comes specifically to things like dating and relationships and physical touch, you can honor others by respecting their consent. When someone tells you no, you stop right there and then. You don't pressure until they say yes. You don't try to convince them to do something that they don't feel comfortable with. When someone doesn't want to go out with you, you respect that and stop asking. When someone doesn't want to see those pictures, you don't send them. When someone doesn't want you to touch them, you don't keep trying. You take honoring and respecting their wishes seriously.
And that's just the beginning of honor. Because while consent is a big deal in relationships and an important piece of what it means to honor somebody else, it's not the most we can do. Honoring somebody else means going above and beyond consent. It means not putting that person or ourselves in a position that they don't want to be in. It means choosing what's best for them, even if it's the opposite of what you want to do in the moment. Because as this verse says, we have to be devoted to treating others this way. In other words, it's more than just a one-time thing. When you're devoted or dedicated to something, you're loyal to it. You keep sticking with it. You keep doing it over and over and over again. And when you're a devoted fan of your favorite band or team or YouTuber, you're committed to being their fan for the long haul. That's devotion. And when you're devoted to treating somebody else with things like love, respect, and honor, that means you're committed to treating them this way all the time. So look back at what Paul said. We're not just called to honor each other. We're supposed to honor one another above yourselves. So even though you might want something from the other person, you honor their consent above all else. Even though you might be okay with a certain behavior, if the other person isn't okay with it, you respect their wishes.
And here's what's so cool. We all deserve honor. Just as much as we should extend honor to others, we should expect to be treated with that same honor. Why? Because every single one of us is created in the image of God. That and that alone means that all of us deserve to be honored. Honor isn't just the higher standard you should extend, it's the higher standard you should expect. It's the standard you can ask for. And when someone doesn't honor you or gets angry that you ask to be honored, that's a big sign that you need to take a step back from a relationship or a person that doesn't want what's best for you. Now, I know this is tough for some of you to hear. Some of you probably have asked to be treated with respect and honor in the past. Maybe you've expressed your consent or your wishes to be treated differently and it wasn't respected, it wasn't honored. And now you're dealing with these feelings of guilt and shame and anger or embarrassment. And I want to say that I'm really, really sorry that that happened to you. You feel wrong about it not because you did anything wrong, but because what was done to you is wrong. What happened to you is not your fault. It wasn't the way you were meant to be treated, and it's not what you deserved. You still deserve to be honored, and you still can be honored. You can honor yourself by talking about it today with someone that you trust. Let them honor you by helping you through it. I know this conversation is hard. I know it's tricky and maybe even awkward to talk about, but I also know that it's so important. Because if we can grasp this, if we can start making honor our goal, then the way we treat other people will change. The way we let other people treat us will change. And because of that, our relationships will change for the better. So remember, honor others, and expect to be honored by others.
So, how do we do this? Well, I think we need to begin here. First, show honor to others. Honor needs to be your goal. Make honor the way you approach other people. Live and treat them with respect. Make that the filter for how you interact with everyone.
Yeah, and that also means that you should respect the no. So much of consent is about listening to the other person. So pay attention to their words, their actions, and even their body language. Listen to and respect what they're saying in terms of consent. Understand that no means no. When someone tells you no, there isn't a question after that. You stop and respect it right there and then. And then second, expect to be honored. Decide how you want to be treated and honored before you're in a situation to be treated that way. You can set the standard for yourself before you're in a situation that pushes your limits. That'll help you to determine how you expect to be honored.
And you should practice your no. Sometimes saying no is awkward, or it's hard, or it's embarrassing, and especially if you like that person or you just want them to like you. So practice now. Start saying no to small things that you're more comfortable saying in bigger situations. If you don't want to go to that party, say no. If you don't want to watch that show, say no. If you don't feel like hanging out with your friend that night, say no. Those simple practices and saying no will help you be more confident to say it when faced with bigger issues. And lastly, speak with confidence. You're allowed to use your voice to express what's okay and what's not okay with you. If you want someone to stop, you can say that. If you want to say no to someone, you can say that. Even if you've said yes in the past, even if you're not sure how the other person will feel, even if you're scared, you can speak up about what you want and what you know is best for you. And finally, if you do all that and someone still doesn't respect your no, don't be ashamed to share this with a trusted adult. You can honor yourself by telling someone who can help you.
We want you to remember this. Honor others and expect to be honored by others.
Okay, so as the video said, there are quite a few decisions that are made for you, decisions that you don't have a whole lot of control over, such as what your parents are going to feed you for dinner, or what kind of subjects you're going to be taught in school. But you do have a lot of situations where you do have control over what happens, where you do have the power to give consent to whether you want to agree to something or disagree and not have something done. So we wanted you to see that you have control over giving consent, but also you have control over honoring the consent of others. If somebody else doesn't want to do a certain thing, then you have the power to honor that consent, that decision that they've made.
All right, I want you guys to think about this situation, okay? A friend your parents don't want you to hang out with keeps pressuring you to lie to your parents so that you can hang out together this weekend. You really want to hang out with your friend, but you don't want to lie to your parents. You've already lost your phone enough times for lying. What do you do? This is a real situation that could happen. You guys, many middle school students have friends that they want to hang out with that their parents may see a different side, that they don't want you to be hanging out with them. It's really hard as a middle schooler to understand that, right? But if you have to lie about something to your parents, then most of the time it's usually not a good thing to do, right? All right, so here are a couple of questions. It's one question that talks about many different things. So here it goes. What's one way you want to be honored by others? In your relationships, in your friendships, through technology, with the adults in your life, and in your family. Lots of good questions to think about. So please discuss this with your family member or sibling, perhaps.
All right, everyone. That's the end of our lesson for this week. One thing that I want to do is see if we can do an egg drop challenge with everyone. So I'm going to try to record a video with instructions and guidelines, and I'd like to see if we can get that recorded, and then maybe we can share that video on our next Zoom session. So we're going to send out a link to, I think, maybe a YouTube video. I'll record, and then that'll go over all the guidelines for the challenge. All right? Okay. Well, we hope everyone has a great week coming up. The weather is getting nicer, it seems, so hopefully you can spend more time outdoors.
Woohoo.
Anyway, take
All
care.
right,
We miss you guys.
miss you.
Hi guys, and welcome to another week here at North Hills Online Sabbath School class. We are going to start today by looking up our scripture, which is found in Mark chapter 7, verse 15. And it says, "It's not what goes into your body that defiles you. You are defiled by what comes from your heart." This week, we're going to be starting a new series called Love, Hate. And it's going to talk about something we all do in life a lot, and that is judge. And face it, we've all done it in some way or form. But the problem here is that we're surrounded by it. We live in a world that loves to hate. It thrives on the judgment of others. In fact, if you think about it, it's something you've been watching on television or social media or online, you will always see someone hating on someone else. And the problem here is that we live in a society where this has become normal. So sometimes we may not even realize that we're doing it or participating in it because it's become so normal. But we know better, and we know that we should never react like that towards somebody else. 1 John 4:11 says, "Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another." And there is no room for love when there is judgment or hatred towards somebody else. And that goes hand in hand with gossip. So how do we move away from judgment or gossip from one another and move it towards loving someone? Let's take a look at our video to see what they have to say.
We live in a world where we use the words love and hate pretty loosely. For example, you may say you love Lucky Charms cereal, but you hate Justin Bieber. You may say you love Marvel movies, but you hate cats. You get the idea. We live in a love-hate culture. Love is a big deal to us. Most of the biggest movies in the theaters have a love story attached to them. A lot of songs that top the charts are about love. Americans alone spend $20.7 billion on Valentine's Day. In the church, we talk about how God loves you and you should love one another. On the other hand, though, we live in a culture that loves to hate on other people or ideas. We bash people on social media, we have opinions on everything, and we form judgments about people we don't even know based simply on their Instagram grids. So if love is such a big deal, why does it seem like hating on people is such a natural part of our lives? There's a lot we could say about the different ways people hate on people, but because we have limited time together today, we're going to focus on just one: gossip. Now, before you roll your eyes and think I'm hating on anybody who hates on somebody else by gossiping, just hear me out for a second, because adults are just as bad as teenagers. But you have to admit that it's a big deal in high school. Am I right or am I right? Think about it. Aren't a lot of the conversations you have about other people? Isn't it true that rumors have ruined some of your classmates' reputations? Don't you sometimes hear stories that seem a bit sketchy on details, but they're full of interesting dirt, so it's fun to talk about? You may be thinking, I don't talk about other people, but I know people who do all the time. But the truth is, we all need to take a look in the mirror and ask ourselves if we contribute to this form of hating. I mean, with all the things we have going on in our lives, why is it so easy to spend time gossiping about other people? Why does gossip have such a strong appeal to us all? I think there's a few big reasons why. Number one, our insecurities. If we can point out what's wrong with other people, it helps us cover up what we feel insecure about within ourselves. Another one is easy bonding. There's no better way to get in with a group of people than by contributing and connecting through gossip. Another could be fun. It's highly entertaining to be the first person to know the juicy details or be in the middle of breaking news about other people. Another could be competitive advantage. Some of us want to be the best, so we'll cut other people down just to show that we are. Or maybe it's truth. Sometimes we justify gossip with the fact that what we're talking about is actually true. We think it's okay because the people we're talking about deserve it or brought it on themselves. Or it could be innocent intentions. Sometimes we just have BFFs that we share everything with, and sometimes everything includes gossip. Like I already mentioned, gossip is an adult thing too. So it's not like you've gotten a lot of great modeling on this topic from people who are older than you. We know parents, teachers, coaches who all tell too much. There are shows, podcasts, YouTube channels dedicated to gossiping about and hating on other people. Social media has ramped this up for sure. You know about subtweeting. And there are famous celebrities who literally are only famous because people gossip about them. They haven't released an album, acted in a movie, or even invented anything world-changing, but they seem to be the trending topic all the time. What a crazy time to be alive. But isn't it true that although gossip is a naturally accepted part of our culture, there's something inside all of us that knows it's not good? I mean, if you've ever been gossiped about, you know how terrible it feels. It's not fun to be the subject of other people's conversations, especially when they don't have all the details or even know you. I know for me, the only time I want people talking behind my back is if they're complimenting me. Anything else, it just hurts. If gossip is, in fact, a big deal, how should we handle it? Well, let's talk about that together. Interestingly enough, someone who lived a couple thousand years ago might have written some of the best advice on this particular topic. His name is Paul, and he's one of the most famous Christians to ever live. His life was dedicated to starting churches and telling everybody he ran in contact with about Jesus. He would often write letters to the churches he had planted, and eventually some of those letters will become what we call books of the Bible. One of those letters is now called the Book of Ephesians. It was written to a group of Christians in the ancient city of Ephesus, which was a bustling port city full of culture, diversity, and religions. It was a town full of a bunch of people with a bunch of differences. This type of setting is the perfect fuel for gossip. There was plenty to talk about, plenty to disagree on, and plenty to judge. In fact, for the people Paul wrote to, Jesus followers, it would have been easy for them to judge what they saw in the people of that town. And it would have been super easy for them to gossip. But Paul wanted the Christians in Ephesus to operate differently than culture. So his letter is all about them, as followers of Jesus, living unique lives. Here's what he had to say. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. In this one sentence, Paul makes it clear that unwholesome talk is not supposed to be a part of our lives. This letter was originally written in Greek. And if we were to look at the original word for unwholesome in the Greek, one of its meanings is rotten. And that, y'all, is a great word to describe what gossip is. Gossip rots our friendships, relationships, and reputations. This isn't what we want to produce with our lives, is it? We don't want to be people who put out a rotten vibe. When we participate in or initiate gossip, we're actually contributing to the rotting of some of the things that matter most to us and the people around us. In fact, not only does it rot things around you, it might actually be an indication of something unwholesome on the inside of you. Jesus himself talked about this. It's not what goes into your body that defiles you. You are defiled by what comes from your heart. According to Jesus, what comes out of you says a lot about what's within you. When you gossip, it shows something about you. More than the words you speak, it's about the motivation that causes you to say certain things or participate in certain conversations. It's an issue of the heart. But back to Paul. He gives us an alternative to the unwholesome gossip. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. In other words, if you choose to put the needs of others ahead of your own, and when you think about who a person is, instead of just judging them, you'll stop yourself from gossiping. You'll think about them before you speak about them. If you choose to build others up, care about their needs, and help them, you'll choose words that benefit them instead of words that bash them. I get that this is a lot easier said than done. Trust me, I do. In a world where gossip is really trendy, it's hard to be the guy or girl who chooses wholesome over unwholesome. I mean, that just sounds boring, doesn't it? But I think it will help you to think about it through the filter of this question. What do you want to be all about? Do you want to be known as someone who loves others, or as someone who is simply a hater? The good news is that you have a choice. You get to decide who you want to be and what you will be known for. The bad news is that you could become known for being someone who is viewed as a hater if you choose to take part in the gossip that is all around you. But I want you to know that God wants you to be all about something else. That's why He gives you the power to be different. Just because gossip is fun, normal, or even trendy, it doesn't mean you have to participate. Instead, you and I could choose to be about something else. We could seek the kind of reputation Paul talked about, one where we're known as people who use words to help others, build others up, and make their needs a priority. We simply choose love over hate. Think of it this way: let love be what you're all about. Of all the things we could be known for, let's start with the thing that Jesus said was the greatest: love. This starts in our hearts, with us making a decision to value and care about other people. It then transfers to our words. We all have a way of deciding what we say. Here are a few of the filters we commonly use. Will it make me look funny? Will it make me look cool? Will it make me look smart? Is it mostly true? These filters often lead to unwholesome talk, and before we know it, something rotten comes out of our mouths. We need a new filter, and I really like the one Paul gives us because it ties in perfectly if we want to be people who are all about love. It's a very straightforward filter, and it goes like this: is this helpful? Before you and I say anything, we should use this filter. In fact, we can put it into practice immediately. We can start today in small group. We can start today when we get home. All we need to ask is, will these words be helpful? Will they build others up? Will they show the world that I'm all about loving others? If we choose to be all about love and use this filter, the words we should and shouldn't use will become really clear. It's actually pretty amazing how practical a filter that's thousands of years old is in today's world. Imagine for a moment if just those of us in this room chose to let love be what we're all about, and we chose not to build our lives around gossip and negative talk. Imagine if we chose to be people who use words to help and build up others. This would have an impact on the world around us. In fact, it may just change the view some people have of Christians. Imagine if Christians were known for being all about love instead of hate. How much more appealing would it be to follow God? How much more magnetic would the church be? All of us get to decide whether we'll be known for being about love or being a hater. Let's let love be what we're all about.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We're going to go on to our discussion questions, and the first one is, talk about a time when you participated in gossip and regretted it. How did it affect your friendship with the person you gossiped about? Our second question is, how would your relationships change if you asked yourself the question, is this helpful, before you speak? And our last question of today is, what kind of person do you want to be known for in your friend group? What is one thing you can do to become that person? So to conclude our lesson for today, I hope you guys were able to get some great pointers from the video or from the discussion questions that we went over. One of the great things that I liked was the discussion question that said, if you're ever in a situation, it's, is it good to just stop and say to yourself, is this helpful? That's a great question to ask yourself. Is this going to benefit anybody that's involved? Is it going to benefit you for participating? Is it benefiting the person that the gossip is being directed at? And most of the time, you're probably going to find that the answer is no. So I really like this question, and I think we can use it in different scenarios in our life. To finish up, I'm going to read once again Ephesians 4:29, and it says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." And that is a great Bible verse to keep in your heart, to keep in your mind, whenever that situation may arise. I'm so glad you guys were able to join us today, and I hope you guys are able to join us for the next few weeks as we go over this new lesson study on love, hate. I know it's going to be a good one. I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I hope to see you guys soon. All right, take care and have a good day. Bye.
Welcome.
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 We are glad you are with us.
We're glad you are here with us today.
We want you to know that you are loved.
You are loved. You are loved.
God loves you.
And we love you.
We love you.
So lay down your worries,
Your pain.
Your pain and your distractions.
Because you are home.
You are home. Home.
As a community of friends,
Friends,
let's give thanks to Jesus.
let's give thanks to Jesus.
Thanks to Jesus.
together, let's praise God.
Together, let's praise God.
Together, let's praise God through prayer.
Through prayer and singing. And singing and by listening to God's Word.
Are listening to God's Word.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning and happy Sabbath. Let's sing and praise God this morning with our voices. I hope this song brings you joy and to know that God is with us through all of our trials today and every day and through this quarantine. Let's have that assurance and let's sing through it all.
For I've learned to depend upon His word. Into your hands I commit again with all I am for you, Lord. You hold my world in the palm of your hand, and I am yours forever. Jesus, I believe in you. Jesus, I belong to you. You're the reason that I live, the reason that I sing with all I am. I walk with you wherever you go, through tears and joy. I'll trust in you, and I will live in all of your ways and your promises forever. Jesus, I believe in you. Jesus, I belong to you. You're the reason that I live, the reason that I sing with all I am. I will worship you. I will worship. I will worship you. Jesus, I believe in you. Jesus, I belong to you. You're the reason that I live, the reason that I sing. Jesus, I believe in you. Jesus, I belong to you. You're the reason that I live, the reason that I sing with all I am. I see
We all have waiting times in our lives, these seasons where all there is to do is wait, don't we? And we're exploring, what do we do in the meantime? Because we're all in the middle of one of these right now. Hey, welcome to North Hills, and I'm excited to dig in to today's conversation with you a little bit. I'm excited. If you're a guest, welcome from my living room to your living room or wherever you might be watching. We're so glad you joined us. This is week 6 of our COVID sheltering at home, and we're just excited that we can still come together as a faith community online. So thanks so much for joining us. If you'd like to kind of jump down into the comments of YouTube or Facebook or wherever you might be watching this, we'd love to know that you're here. Say hi to people you know. If you're a guest, let us know you're there. You can also go to our website. Just let us know you tuned in today. Or you can text us. You can text us at 909-447-9109, and we'd love to get back to you. We'd also love to meet you after the service here. After our stream ends, we jump onto Zoom and kind of hang out for a few minutes. Just say hello, check in with everybody. And then again, tonight we're going to have a game night. That's going to be a lot of fun, so check that out. You'll want to stay on top with our emails and our social media, and you can find all of that information, how to subscribe to all that on our website. So jump on to inhills.org. In the meantime, I'm just really glad to start digging into today's topic because I think we all have these seasons in our lives, whether it was a relationship that fell apart, whether it was your kids grew up and then they kind of chose a path that you hadn't envisioned for them. Maybe it was finances that just don't seem like they ever have a hope of being put back together, or a career that didn't go the direction you dreamt that it would. We all have these moments where life kind of falls apart. For some, it's our health, right? That our health, we're told in this incredibly difficult moment, listen, there's no cure, and we're just going to have to treat what's going on. And so we have these moments, don't we? We all have these commonalities, and right now we have this commonality where we're waiting, we're in the meantime. And what is it that we can do? How can we build one another up? How can we build up faith? And that's kind of what we're talking about. We've really just asked this question for this series: what do you do when there's nothing to do? What do you do when there's nothing to do? You can't change your situation. You can't somehow steer it in a different direction. What do you do when there's nothing to do? And so we're wrestling with that together. In fact, I remember as a chaplain, I remember walking into the room of a leukemia patient, and I remember it was really dark inside the room, and as I kind of walked in, I was afraid he might be asleep. The bed was down, and he immediately, however, kind of said hello. I introduced myself as the chaplain, and I said, hey, how are you doing today? And kind of went through the various things that we would go through and check in with patients. And he proceeded to tell me, well, this is what it looks like to be cursed by God. Like this is what it looks like when God is done with me. And so I leaned in a little further. I said, well, tell me more about that. And he proceeded to give me like 5 different instances through his life where he felt that he had been cursed by God, that God had just kind of put him in a category where he was done with him, and that this had all kind of built up, and this final, he had lost his job, he had lost some relationships, his finances had fallen apart, and right here at the end, he had been diagnosed with leukemia, and this was it. And I remember listening to him for quite a while and just sharing in his sorrow with him. And then I got this page, and young people, there's pagers. You can ask your parents what those are. But like I got a page, and I said, well, I'm gonna have to go. But I said, but I want you to consider this one thing. I want you to consider this one thing. I want you to consider: is there potentially another way that you could have looked, or that you can now look back at these 5 things that happened to you? Is there another perspective? Because I would wish that for you, I want for you that maybe this wouldn't be the end. That maybe this wouldn't be, like, maybe you have other options. I said, I might be wrong, and maybe you're totally right, but maybe there's a different perspective. And I left. And I remember coming back to the hospital. It had been a long weekend, and one of the nurses let me know, hey, this patient, he's been asking for you. And so I went up to his room, and I knocked and came in, and I didn't even think it was the same room at first. In fact, the blinds were open. It was bright. The lights were on. He was bolt upright in the bed. He was immediately turned to me with a big smile on his face. He was engaging, and I'm like, at first I almost thought I was in the wrong room. And he turns to me, he says, I'm so glad you came by. He said, I want you to know that I was wrong. He said, I've actually been blessed by God. Like, I was taken aback at first. I was like, tell me more about that. He says, yeah, I realized that if I looked at myself as cursed, then God must be really in the cursing business, because there's a lot of people that deal with a lot of difficult things, and I don't feel that God is in the cursing business. That's not the God I believe in. It's not the God that I read about when I read the Bible. He said, so I actually started wrestling with it and praying with it, and I talked to my pastor about it, and he said, and what I came down to, he said, God's given me this opportunity to just love on people right now, despite what I'm going through. Like I get to be in this, yes, and it's terrible, it's painful, it's horrible, but God's got a purpose for me in this. He's got a way that I can end my life for however many years or months or whatever time I have left. He said, I've been given this blessing. And I remember walking away thinking, wow, like, it's understandable to feel sorrowful, and it's amazing to feel blessed in a situation like that, isn't it? Like, to take that and you filter it through and you just think about, how does that change how you view that in the meantime moment? I mean, we said last week, that God is not absent, apathetic, or angry. We said God's not absent, apathetic, or angry. And that's important that we realize that, because as we wrestle with what to do in the meantime, we're all part of like this incredible faith history. We're part of a faith that actually started in persecution. It started in an empire that was overburdening its people. It started, and it has grown fastest. Our faith has grown fastest in the most nightmarish and difficult circumstances, right? Like and yet today we live at a time in history when like if things don't quite go your way, you're like, well, God must not really care, or maybe he doesn't exist. Like we have this expectation that everything's going to go well for us, don't we? I have the same thoughts at times. Like, I don't understand. This should be going well. This should be going well. And yet it doesn't. And so we have these expectations. And then we glance at social media and we look and we say, oh, it seems to be going well with my friends. Why isn't it going well with me? It seems to be going well with those people, and I know what they're all about, but it's not going well with me. Something's wrong. God must not really get it. Maybe God doesn't really care. And even in moments like this, when like I feel like COVID maybe has brought us all together, we can laugh at some memes, but we can feel that we're part of kind of a similar journey together. Everybody has something in common right now, don't we? And yet, even when this ends, we go right back to comparing our situations with someone else's. But from the perspective of faith, this is kind of a funny thing. Our history, the library that is the Bible, records all sorts of incredible stories that faith endured through incredible circumstances, from slavery and oppression to murder and death, to the death of loved ones, to incredible health difficulties, all these things. And yet for these people, faith brought them through it. It wasn't something that came up and then they decided, well, then that means my faith is worthless. In fact, Jesus, the center of our faith, had his own in the meantime moment. The Gospels record on the night before he was crucified that he had this Last Supper, And then he goes up to the Garden of Gethsemane up on this hillside, and he goes there to pray with some of his closest disciples, and they very unapologetically fall asleep on him. They're not the greatest support. And so he's kind of there alone. And the Bible talks about that he's so stressed. It's such a burden because he knows what's coming. He knows the torture of the cross is around the corner. He knows any minute now his freedom ends and the torture begins. And the weight of sin is going to be put on his shoulders, and he knows, and he's crying out, and he cries out, and he prays to God. And he says this, Luke records this moment and records his prayer. He says, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." Father, if you're willing, take this cup. Can you change anything? Can you do anything at all? I need you to change this circumstance. Can you please alter? If you care, like I know you can, so please just do something about it. But his prayer doesn't end there. And that's key. That's such a huge key for Jesus. His prayer doesn't end with, take this cup from me. And for many of us, some of our prayers end right there. God, here's my wish list. Here's the things that would make my life better. Here are the things that would make things just kind of all work out for me. But he carries on that prayer and he says, "Yet not my will, but yours be done." He could have chosen to be bitter towards the Father. He could have chosen to be angry. And instead, he let the Father's will draw him in. We could say this, that Jesus embraced the cross with a purpose. He had a purpose to it. He saw that there was a purpose, and that purpose drew him through the most excruciating experience anyone has ever been through. Now, we have the same choice, don't we? I mean, we may not know the purpose that God has for us, but we know that God draws purpose through our pain. We know that God pulls out of our situation things, and he uses things, and he puts all things together for his glory. And as an act of faith, we have this choice to rely on God and rely that God has a purpose, that God has a purpose in what it is that he is accomplishing, despite what it is that we might be going through. You see, God will use your pain for his purpose. He may not have caused your pain. That's a very different discussion, but he will definitely use your pain for his purpose. It might be in your life, it might be in the lives of those around you, but these waiting times, in the meantime, you can rest assured that if God used the pain of Jesus for his purpose, he can use your pain for his purpose as well. But God doesn't stop at just his purpose. He's not just moving pawns around for his purpose, or he's not just some strategist in the sky, right? He takes it even further. And we find that in the story of Paul. Paul, who was a persecutor of Christians and then had this incredible encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, who spoke from heaven and blinded Paul, and he goes through and Paul becomes a Christian and becomes a prolific preacher, and he travels all around the Mediterranean area and he does incredible things. Well, Paul kind of gets to this point where things are going really well for him, right? Like ministry is going really well. At first, people were a little leery of him. They didn't trust him because he had killed and imprisoned so many Christians. And then he kind of earns his way, and he makes some relationships. Some people help him along the way, so ministry is going pretty well for him. Life is good for Paul, and it's growing. His ministry is thriving. He knows what God has called him to do, and he's doing it. It's like he's living in that flow. And then something strikes him. And we're not sure what it is, but something prevents him from being as effective as he wants to be, as he feels that he could be. He puts it this way, and we've talked about this recently. He says Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. That's some pretty strong language, isn't it? Like a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. But there's some really key language in here, and I want to dive in real quick with you, because he says, I was given, and the Greek word here that he uses for given is the idea of giving a good gift. Like, if you just read a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me, you wouldn't think that the word he was going to use to describe those things was a good gift. Would you? Like, he was given a thorn in his flesh. I was given a good gift. And then he talks of a thorn. The idea of the thorn here is that it's constant. It's not going away. It's recurring. It's incredibly irritating, painful, debilitating, humiliating. It is consistent in his life, right? A thorn in his flesh. And he says to torment him, this idea of to torment. And that literally translates to being struck with a fist, to torment me, to beat me up, to continually to beat on me and wear me down. And he's like, I was given this thing. Like he says it, it's almost like he wrote this with a smile on his face. Something painful. And people have hypothesized this could have been all sorts of things. They've said it could have been epilepsy, he could have had migraines or depression, or we know he had a bad eyesight problem. He had all sorts of things. And we don't really know what it was, but we know that it affected him, that it was public, it was obvious. If you saw Paul in the right situation, you knew that he dealt with this. You knew it. But no matter what, in all of this, we also know that it made his mission more difficult. What God asked him to do, this thing was preventing him from doing it to the best of his ability. Like, God, this is your mission, and it's making it harder for me. Why are you making this harder for me, huh? Right? And so Paul prays, just like you or I would do. He says, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. God, can you take it away? Can you take it away? Can you take it away? I mean, some of us are dealing with very difficult things. For some of us, it's COVID related. Some of you, I know, you've lost your job. Some of you have been put on furlough. Some of you are dealing with serious health issues. Some of you are just battling to survive. Some of you are struggling to just kind of manage with the kids and the job and everything else. It feels overwhelming. Some of you are dealing with the same thing you were dealing with before COVID, and you'll be dealing with it still after COVID. Some of you, that if COVID found a cure today, right now, you'd still be dealing with this, and you'd still need this message. Some of you have prayed this 3 times. Some of you have prayed 3 times, 1,000 times. God, can you take this from me? And maybe some of you have been told, hey, what you need to do, you need to pray a little more. In fact, we have a friend who was actually told by a minister, as horrific as that is, that when their daughter died, that she wouldn't have died if they had prayed harder. What kind of garbage theology is that? It has nothing to do. Here's Paul, who pleaded, God, take it from me. And God said, no. There's Jesus, who pleaded, Father, take this cup from me. And God says no. And so let's see. Here's God's answer to Paul. He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. I know you'd love to hear God actually say something to you right now, but there are these moments that God says no. And Paul here reminds us that when we embrace our inability, God rises to his ability. And so here God says, hey, my grace is sufficient. And at that point, Paul's going, I'm sure he's just saying, so what you're saying is this isn't going away like ever. This is permanent. But what does God do in this difficult moment? He offers a promise. He says, my grace will be sufficient for you. I'm going to be there. I'm going to lavish my grace on you. Just look for my presence right now. My grace is sufficient for you. I'm right here with you every step of the way. And then he talks about his purpose, that in our weakness, God is powerful. God promises his grace in our most difficult circumstances. He says that our pain can remind us of God's promise. God's promise comes through. It becomes important. We cling to it more. We remember it more in our pain, that it rises to the surface, doesn't it? I mean, times like this are kind of reality checks. Like, what is it that I'm relying on in my life? Am I relying on the promises of God, or am I relying on something else? Where are my priorities? Do I view my life the way my Heavenly Father views my life? Am I noticing what he's putting in front of me? Am I noticing what God is bringing into my life? Because I guarantee you, if you start praying every morning, God, help me notice you today. Help me see the way you're working, even at home, while you're at home, sheltering, keeping your community safe. God is going to be doing things. God will be working things out because he has a promise that his grace will be there and it will be enough. Check out Paul's response. Therefore, because all this, because God said, my grace is sufficient, my power is made perfect in your weakness. He says this, therefore, because of God's promise and because of God's purposes, therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses. How many times have you boasted about your weaknesses? I don't do it very often. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever boasted about my weaknesses. And yet the idea here is that he rolls in it. He basks in it. He owns it. He grabs hold of it. This is his claim. I am weak. I'm weak. This is who I am. And he says, so that Christ's power may rest on me, so that God, so that Jesus may rest in my life. I have to recognize that it's not me, it can't be me, it never will be me, that I am not sufficient. God's grace is sufficient, that I am not enough. Jesus was enough and is enough. That I am weak, he is strong. You see, our pain is always given with a promise and a purpose. And so maybe you need a promise today. Or maybe you need to understand and look for a purpose, that God's doing something, that God's moving something forward even while everything else seems to be standing still. But either way, God's always working out a promise and a purpose in our life. And we have a choice in this moment. We have an opportunity right here and now. Our opportunity is to choose whether or not to look towards the promise, to choose to look towards the purpose. Can we look towards those things, or are we going to look away? Because sometimes God says no. Sometimes we're still waiting. Sometimes we may be waiting a very long time. But it's our choice, isn't it? It's our choice. And if we embrace these moments as a gift, as a good gift, then we can find the promise and the purpose in it. So have you embraced your situation yet? Have you embraced it? Have you grabbed hold of this gift? Have you stopped hiding from it? Stopped pretending it didn't exist? Stopped pretending that the relationship wasn't as bad? Have you stopped faking the finances? Have you stopped and mourned the career loss? Have you stopped and looked at your expectations and said, yeah, it all fell apart? Have you embraced your situation yet? Because here's what Paul says as he embraced his. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. When I am weak, then I am strong. What if you saw your pain as a gift? Listen, I know this is tough. I don't do this well. It's tough to do this well. But this is what it says. This is what Paul shows us. This is what Jesus showed us on the way to the cross. What if you embraced your pain as a gift? What if for you right now, what if quarantine is a gift? What if quarantine right now for you is a gift? What gift is it? Where is it a gift in your life? How is it a gift in your life? Right? I mean, what if we just chose to look for God's purposes while we cling to God's promises? And look around and say, okay, God, I understand. I'm going to cling to this promise. I'm going to trust in it. I'm going to put all my faith and my trust in you no matter what. And I'm just going to start looking around. I'm going to start observing. I'm going to start finding places that you're working out your purposes around me. And yeah, God, I believe you can change my circumstances. You could change all this, but you haven't. You've chosen not to. And I'm not going to let that send me down this road that says, well, then you don't exist or then you don't care. I'm going to make a choice to say you've chosen not to, so you have something you're going to pull out of this. You have a purpose, and I know you have a promise. And so I'm going to look at this as a gift. Maybe God has a gift in this new normal. Maybe it's an opportunity to cling more tightly to God's promises. But maybe there's something else going on. I don't know. But let's look at our situation a little bit for one quick sec as we wrap this up. What if God has a purpose in your quarantine, in your new normal? What if this is an opportunity right now because you're at home to do something different? What if you're not going to go to normal after this? What if like the normal had issues and this is an opportunity to correct some of those issues? And new normal starts now, and when COVID ends, there's going to be another new normal that will be better than the previous normal. Maybe it'll be less stressful. Maybe it'll be less busy. Maybe you'll have more appreciation and gratitude for a relationship or an opportunity or health or breath or whatever it might be. Maybe there's some gratitude that needs to ramp up. Maybe you're just going to simply be more aware after this of what God's doing around you, and your faith is going to skyrocket to another level, right? Like, what is it? In what way is this going to be a gift for you this morning? In what way is this going to be a gift for you? And you can look back and you can say, COVID-19, man, my life changed radically because of that. But I got to tell you, it changed in a good way because I chose to view it as a gift. I made this decision. And it became a moment where my faith grew and I learned to value the things around me in different ways. What if you chose to embrace this situation as a gift and to look for God's purposes in it? and to say, God, I'd love for you to take this cup from me, but not my will, yours be done. And I'm going to take this and run with it because I know you're running with me. So here's my challenge. You probably heard my challenge. Like you probably guess it at this point, right? Here's my challenge. I want you to talk and a walk. I want you to talk about what good have you seen in your current situation? I got a typo there. What good have you seen in your current situation? Not how is it hard, not, oh, we're short on toilet paper again, right? Not, oh, it's very difficult to go to the grocery store, or, oh, I'm really tired of wearing a face mask, right? Or boy, this is, what good have you seen? And start looking for it, start focusing on it, right? So what good have you seen? And talk about it. Share it with someone. Share it online. Share it in the comments below. What good have you seen in your current situation? What is it that you've seen God do around you, right? And then secondly, for your walk, what parts of your new normal don't you want to lose? And develop ways to protect them, okay? You're in a new normal. What parts of right now, what parts of the way you're living right now, what parts of that do you not want to lose? What parts of that is it God just saying, hey, I've slowed you down? How are you going to protect it? Hey, I've helped ramp up a priority on relationships. How are you going to protect that? Hey, I've given you a little reprieve financially. How are you going to protect and use that? How is it that you're going to protect these things and write this stuff down and say, I'm going to have this plan that when COVID-19 ends, my new normal continues and I get to find new ways to rely on God and to reassess my priorities. My new normal will begin. So let me pray for you as we wrap up. Let me pray from my living room to yours that in the midst of all this, that you might see even the most challenging situation is a gift. You might make that choice because in doing so, you will realize incredible and notice incredible things around you. Bow your heads. God, thank you so much that you endured the cross and that out of even the most difficult, horrific situation, you can pull redemption, restoration, and goodness into the world. God, may we see things through your eyes. May we have trust and patience that your grace is sufficient for us. May we rely on your promises, and may we notice your purposes going on around us. I pray this in your name. Amen.
What is this? I don't recognize this. Pain broke in and took it all. Took the song from the springtime and the dance from the flame. Took the noonday warmth and the morning hush. Now the ground's spilling beneath me. The ropes are uncoiling, the trees are leafless, the sky is torn. My breath's a broken feather, there's no beauty left. There's nothing here for me, I'm paper thin. I'm in a room of shadows and it's caving in. I'm turning in circles, I'm giving up. The world is giddy, the sense is gone. The floor is an ocean, I'm sinking in. Where are you now? Where is your touch? Where is the reason, the answer, the end? Now I'm chasing your shadow and I'm grasping for questions. I'm calling out, I'm asking why. Yet when I turn, you turn. When I reach, you reach, and in the searing burn, you wait for me. Dress my tears in kisses, cradle my grief, touch me in the silence, hold me in the heat. And when the ragings rush, drown me in defeat, I make my bed of dust, and you lie with me.
Thank you so much for joining us online this morning. Though we are apart, I hope you've enjoyed being together online, and I hope it was a blessing for your family. There are a few ways that we can stay connected even from home. In fact, right after this, you can join us in a Zoom hangout. We'd love to see you join us and say hello. Tonight, we'll be back in Zoom again for a virtual game night at 7 p.m. So check your email and social media for the details. You'll need one screen for a Zoom chat and then one phone for every person that wants to participate in the games. On Wednesday night at 7 p.m., we also have our small group night. Join us as we finish our discussion of the book, 12 People You Love. It's always a good discussion and encouraging to see friendly faces in the middle of the week. Don't forget, we still want to reach out to our community during this challenging time, so please remember to donate to North Hills on their website, northhillschurch.org. That website again, northhillschurch.org, or by mailing in your donation. Thank you for joining us, but just before we leave, here's a challenge from our middle school group.
Hello, North Hills family. I hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to introduce a challenge to you. This challenge is called, Can You Beat a Middle Schooler? So we had challenged the middle school to see if they could construct a container that could house an egg so that when you drop the container, the egg would not crack upon landing. So we wanted to see if we could open this up to everyone else. If you are a student of some sort, whether it be a preschool student or elementary or middle school student, college student, or even a student of life, then you are welcome to join in the challenge. The rules of the challenge are, your container cannot be greater than 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. So the whole thing must fit within 1 square foot. You cannot use any sort of parachute device. You cannot use any sort of electronic device, such as a drone or an electronic motor, nothing that's battery operated or electrical. The container must land on a hard surface, such as concrete or asphalt. We are going to have prizes for different categories, so we're going to try to judge to see which one is the most creative, which one is the nicest looking, the most aesthetically pleasing, and of course, who has the most successful drop from the highest elevation. So if you could submit pictures of your creation and then a video showing the drop and of course the reveal, you must open it up and show us that the egg, whether the egg is cracked or not. If you can submit all of those to us, then we will try to put them together and we will bring them to you the following weekend. So we wish you the best of luck in your creations and constructions, and we hope that you have some fun with this. I hope everyone stays well. Take care. We'll see you next time.